Hello and welcome. My name is Federation. This is my very first Let's Play. We'll be playing Life is Feudal Forest Village. If you enjoy the video, please feel free to give it a big thumbs up. Also leave a comment in the comment section below and I'll try and say g'day back to you. And yeah, of course, subscribe. That would be awesome as well, because I have 0 subscribers at the moment. I would obviously love to have you on board. So if you want to be number 1, if you want to be number 10, if you want to be number 100, any of the, or anywhere in between, that would be awesome. Greetings from sunny Melbourne. I'm coming from Melbourne in Australia. I say sunny Melbourne, it is only 8 degrees at the moment. It's quite brisk today. It's in the tail end of winter though, so that's to be expected, but at least it's fine, it's not raining, so it's actually going to be a very, very nice day. As you can see here, we're going to be playing some Life is Feudal Forest Village. If you've played Banished before, straight away you're going to see some similarities between the two games, but there are some quite significant differences as well, certainly in the gameplay. So we've got the village here of Rutherglen, and I've just kept it pretty simple at the moment. So normal map size, plains, and just a mild climate. We're not going to go through anything too full on for our first little play through together. So let's hop on in. I've been playing this game for about a month or so now. A lot of fun to play. I died a lot to begin with, which is problematic. Yeah, not so good. I found that the transition from Banished to Life is Feudal Forest Village, was pop a pause on it here. You just have to be really careful in the start not to A, run out of food, B, freeze to death, yeah, or C, sort of expand too quickly. So assuming that you can avoid those 3 things, then you're pretty set. So there's a few little things I like to do to start with. First of all, obviously, we've got little Tholan here. Tholan, who's 16. I say little. It's quite interesting in this game. They seem to think of you as an adult by the time you're about 10. And so you're having children by about that stage. But you still do live through till about 60 or 70. So, yeah, quite a long working life in this game. So Tholan here doesn't have a house. Homeless, that's what this little symbol here indicates. So we need to get him a home fairly quick, smart. As you can see up the top here, we are in spring of year 1. That means basically we've got all of spring, summer, and, as I would say, autumn, or as the game says, fall, to get him a house. Otherwise he will freeze to death. Also, likewise, we've got to make sure we keep our firewood supply up, because if there's not firewood, they can't heat their houses, and then everyone else will freeze to death. At the same time as doing that, we've also got to get some food happening. They give us some food to begin with. You can see we've got 700 fish, 900 bread. We've got some fruit over here as well. That will probably get us through the first season or so. However, once more, if you don't get that production chain up and going quickly, excuse me, then you will starve to death. This can all happen very easily and very quickly. For the first probably 3 or 4 times I played this game, I got to about winter in year 2, and it was all over. So, not so good. That's certainly not the aim today, and we'll try not to do that. One of the first things I like to do is gather some resources, just to sort of clear out this area where I'm working here. Makes it a bit easier to see what I'm doing, and it also just adds to our stockpile. So you've got your barn here, which, as you can see, this is it's got it's got your food, your firewood, tools, coats, and furs as well. And then over here you've got your warehouse, which is basically your raw materials. These are your finished products over here. These are your raw materials, particularly for building and the like. So yeah, your logs, stone, iron ore, clay, and grass or hay. Hay is a product of grass. We'll grow some grass later. So these are some of the things you're going to need to build houses, etc., which we'll be doing shortly. So the first thing I'm going to do, pop down here, and we are going to collect all of the resources in this area. So just simply click and drag across. As you can see, as you do that, it gives you a little stat bar there in the middle. So we're going to pick up 292 logs, 274 stone, 349 iron ore and 84 hay. So we'll do that. We'll unpause the game and let them get going on that. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because it takes a while to do, and we don't want to be sitting here all day watching them dig up resources. So they'll go about and do that. As you can see, they're returning it back to here. But we need to get a house on the go as well for Tholan so that he's got somewhere to live. So we're going to go into a little house menu here. Now you've got a variety of houses. They all start off with these shacks. This is like the absolute basic requirement. You can upgrade them, which gives you more. You can fit more people in. I don't bother doing that. I try and get rid of them as quickly as I can. The houses are better, and then ultimately, well, sorry, the small house is better, and then ultimately the house is better. Hostels, not so great. I guess it's good if you need somewhere temporary, but again, I prefer just to stick to these small houses and the houses. So I'm going to put some small houses in to begin with, which will just help to ease some of those concerns. So let me just work out where exactly I want to put this. I'm going to try and keep this area here. Whenever you start a map in Banished, you've sort of got this little plateau where you begin. You can see up here there's a bit of a, you know, there's a, oops, that's not what I meant to do. Let's just come in this way. So you can see that the land raises up as we move away here. So this is a fairly flat map actually, so it's not too bad, and some good areas for us to expand into. So I'm going to try and keep some houses down here to begin with. That's where it's central to the food and all that sort of stuff as well. So I'm going to sort of zoom in here a little bit, and we're just going to grab a house, and I'm just going to rotate it around using the R key. There's a doorway. I might have it facing this way. The thing I found with this is that if you slide it like slightly over, notice the footprint size is actually changing, so you can make it use less space. I'm leaving a gap between this and, whoops, if I can just get this right, just a matter of getting the mouse to, come on. There we go. I'm just going to pop it there. Now obviously it's not going to do anything at the moment because I need to get my job screen up, which is in here. See who's doing what. So at the moment I haven't got any builders assigned. It's saying that I could use 2 builders. Oh, Tholan starved to death. Well, see, there we go. First mistake of the game. I didn't build a house quick enough. Tholan couldn't get to a house and couldn't get any food, so he starved to death. Unfortunately, Tholan and many others, I'm just going to pause for a second, not intelligent enough to go and actually get food from somewhere else, which is problematic. I found it particularly frustrating in this game. I've had times where farmers have starved to death, and yeah, I'm kind of like, you're harvesting the food, you're putting it away in the storage barn, and yet you're not actually eating it when you're hungry, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it is what it is. So I probably should have moved a little quicker to get this house going. We had all the resources. Like when you click on it, it shows you what resources you need. The fact that none of these items are red means that we have sufficient in our storage facilities. The fact that there's all zeros along the top means that none of it has been transported across yet, which it won't be straight away. So we have one less person. That is a bit annoying early on in the game. It's going to slow us down just that little bit, but it is what it is. So we don't have to worry about a house for Tholan now, but we will still build this house anyway. I will assign a couple of builders to that task. We'll unpause so we can get that house going. That'll help us, allow us to expand a little bit. You can see that everyone's dragging across the lumber, and if I click on this, you'll see here lumber's coming across. We've got 60 of 60 across. The iron ore's in place, the stone's in place, everything's in place. Now they're building. Up comes the house, and it will be done very, very short. We've got a little message down here. Trinity has grown up and is ready to study. You see this icon here with the knife and fork, basically saying there's no food that's been taken to the house yet. So hopefully, bang, in they go. Yep, food's gone. So cool. That house will now have food and firewood in there. If I click on this, yep, firewood and some bread. So they are happy and they'll be able to keep warm. So as I was saying, Trinity has grown up, ready to study. We haven't got a school yet. Sending students to school means that they become more efficient in their jobs later on. I tend not to prioritise the school quite so quickly. I'm just going to turn these builders off now so I can go back to resource gathering. I tend not to prioritise the school right early on, just personally because it just takes another person out of the workforce, and yeah, early on you're kind of pretty stretched for getting people into the workforce to do stuff. So alright, let's have a look at what we've got to do. So like I said early on, excuse me, I'm just getting over a bit of a cold, so I've still got a bit of a cough. Early on what we need to do is we need to get our production chain up and going. So I'm just going to pause for a second so it doesn't get away from me here. Firewood, we've only got 301 firewood, so we need to make sure that we are on top of that. So I'm going to create over here in our industry, I'm going to create a Forester's Lodge. So this little building here is where foresters live, and they basically chop down and replant trees. You'll notice this green radius around it, or perimeter, I guess, if you like, around it. This is the area in which it is effective. So it's best to sort of keep this maybe away from, like if I plant it right here, for example, it's going to be fairly ineffective, given that I'm currently tearing all of the trees out of here, so that would be somewhat nonsensical to put it there. So I'm going to put it over somewhere like here, out of the way. It's still relatively close by. Obviously I'm not going to put it right beside the water, because then half of the area is not usable. So I'm going to pop it over here amongst the trees. It's going to allow us to expand out to the north of our village without encroaching on this area. Obviously you want to try and avoid encroaching into this area and tearing down all the trees, because if you do that, they're not going to be able to work efficiently. So I'm going to pop that down there, and then it's going to ask me for a couple of builders, so I'll pop a couple of builders on that. I'll unpause that. So they'll get to work. You can see them heading off to start putting those resources there. So I want to get that up and going so that we can make sure that we've got firewood, and then I've got to get onto some food as well, actually. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause again for a second. I am going to get in place what I want, food, which is a fish icon. I'm going to get a gatherer's hut to begin with. So gatherer's hut is good, gets some food and veg in pretty quickly, or yes, fruit and veg in to start with. I'm also probably going to get a hunter's cabin in pretty quick as well. Again, likewise with these, you don't want to put these in an area that have been completely stripped bare of trees and the like, because then animals and the like, they're just not going to be there. So again, you want to put this over in an area where you can say, right, okay, this is my sort of area which I'm going to keep set aside for these. So I'm probably going to put this over, say, here somewhere. Which way around is that facing? There we go, I think that's facing forward, or facing towards the village. Pop that over there. Later on I'm going to relocate some storage facilities over here so they don't have to walk back so far, but to begin with, over there will be fine. Just got to remember where it is. Sometimes it's very easy to lose things in this place. And I'll also put in place a hunting cabin. Hunting cabins are good later, and again, because later in the when we get around to winter, things like the gatherer's hut and fields don't work because it's too cold. So, but whereas a hunting cabin can go all year round, so you can sort of switch people onto that during winter to make sure that your food continues. So I'm just going to zoom in here. I'm particularly OCD when it comes to placing things. So I'm going to want to line it up, just because that's who I am. So I shall line that up. Cool. So we've got that there as well. There is some argument as well. Some people would like to put a hunter's cabin right in near the city to keep out animals, especially later if you've got a chicken coop. The foxes love to get in there, and I'll just unpause, and sort of tear up the chicken coop. So I'm going to put a few more builders there. We haven't got 6 people after Tholan passed away. I'm going to keep one person gathering resources though. We've got a good amount of resources though. Yeah, we don't need to worry too much about that at the moment. So they're over here working on our Forester's Lodge, which is done by the looks of that. It is in fact complete. Alrighty then. The other thing we should put in place, before I forget about it, we need to put in a lumberjack's lodge here, which is basically going to allow us to convert we will convert our what am I trying to say? Convert our logs into firewood. Okay, it's important to make sure you get that sort of production line up and going quickly. It can be very easy to sort of neglect to do that, and then all of a sudden, honestly, by the time you realise that you haven't got enough, it's too late, because it takes time to get it going again. So I'm sort of constantly monitoring what's going on up here just to make sure that we're all good. Like, we're pretty low, like, we're okay with food for the moment, but it's going to be something that I'm going to have to keep an eye on in the not too distant future, because otherwise we're going to be in a spot of bother if our population increases too much. How are we going resources wise? Yep, we're alright. I've just got to again keep a track to make sure that we're not using all the resources we have. Where are these? See, I've lost them already. I know here they are, and they're both being built, which is awesome, because that means we're going to get some food rolling in. The good thing as well with the hunter's cabin, this is the gatherer's hut, but with the hunter's cabin I'm going to knock off some of these and just start putting in a couple here. With the hunting cabin, not only do you get meat, you also get furs as well here. So we've got 10 at the moment, or hides rather. That allows you later to make, after you've harvested some flax as well, you can start building some clothing, or producing, I guess, some clothing, which keeps your people warm, which is again good. And they use less firewood, which everything, and then eventually you'll be able to, if you have got sheep, you can get warm clothing, which again just it reduces the demand on resources, so which is important. Alright, how are we going? So that's up and going. So I'm just going to pause for a second just to reevaluate here. So we can get rid of these 3 builders. We don't need these anymore. So we've now got 4 people just that are free. So it's saying you've got 6 adults who can work, 4 of them are currently idle. So they're just going to haul stuff around. However, at this point in time, it's probably more important that we've actually got them involved in certain professions. So I do want a lumberjack, and I do want a forester as well, to make sure we've got timber being cut down, and then somebody converting that to firewood, which is good. We need to keep that number up because we're late summer, so we're not far away from winter coming along. Usually the snow comes in pretty quick sometimes. Coming from Melbourne here, we don't have snow. It doesn't get that cold. Like our coldest days during winter, you might get a 10 or 11 degrees Celsius day. That's probably like your coldest maximums you get. You get some pretty extreme wind chill factor some days, but still it's not that cold, so we don't see snow. We've got it up on the mountains, but if you go to the ski resorts and stuff like that, but it's not like some of the European cities or North American cities. So, but yeah, it comes in pretty quick here. So in the fall, the snow comes in and kind of wipes out your crops, and the need for firewood here happens pretty quick smart. So what have we got? We've got 2 of 6 there. We could put let's put another gatherer on for the moment. I always like to just leave 1 labourer sort of labouring around. Unpause that. Let's get this going, and we'll just sort of let it consolidate. So that 1 labourer now is still going along and gathering these resources, bringing this in, just so that, yeah, we've got everything happening as it should be. So food reserves are low. You get this warning a lot in this game, as you can see down here. Food reserves are low, and they're not really that low. I'm presuming it's calculated by some sort of ratio in regards to sort of all of this. Some lightning and thunder. I'm presuming it is quite loud. I'm presuming it is in relation to the amount of population you've got and the actual, the amount of food, depending on how many head you've got. Because at the moment I'm looking at, it's like 789 bread and 614 fish, and at the moment that's pretty good. Like, I'm not worried about that. And now I'm starting to get, you'll notice our vegetables are starting to go up as well from our gatherer, and then meat will start to go up after a while as well. It must have gone up because we've gone up to 20 hides now. We had 10 before, so the meat tends to be grabbed pretty quickly. So you'll notice each of these have calorie sort of values as well. Obviously the higher calorie value, the more nutritious it is. So if you get to these pies and stuff like that, like you'll notice there's some fairly high calorie ratings here. So, but like everything in this game, that requires a sort of more significant production chain to make that happen. So we've got to, yeah, you've got to get that all set up. It takes a bit of a while to get everything happening in that regard. Okay, cool. So thus far things are going pretty well. We've got a good amount of food starting to build up. Some fruit and veg are coming in from the gatherer. Like I said, the meat is disappearing straight away. People prefer that over some of the other stuff, so that always goes. The fish and bread, so they're the initial starting supplies they give you. They whittle down. I will put in a sort of a fishing dock in the not too distant future once we get a few more people. At the moment I haven't had any more people grow up from teenagers to adults, so I do want to put another house in soon to start encouraging, getting some more babies going, and hence start to grow my population, because I do want to sort of lift it up relatively quickly, not too quickly, but relatively quickly, so that I can start putting in some farms and things like that to really start to boost it. And things like, we're going to run out of tools eventually. We've currently got 24 tools. In order to put together the production chain for that, I need sort of, well, a reasonable number of people. I need charcoal. Charcoal turns into cast iron, and then with a few other resources, we suddenly get some tools coming out. But we need sort of 3 or 4 people to make that production chain happen. Excuse me, this cough. I didn't sit down with any water here, so I'm going to have a break in a moment and get something to drink for my throat, which is a bit hoarse this morning. But anyway, so yes, we have to, we need to boost our population in order to make something happen. So we've got some resources. I might actually put down another house and at least get it ready to start being built, because things are cruising along pretty smoothly now. You can see our vegetables are coming up nicely. Remember though, once we get into winter, we can't, the fruit and veggies will stop coming in because our gatherer will stop. We can pop some more people on the hunter though at that stage, but that will stop. So I'm going to try and see if I can squeeze another house in here. Let's have a look and see what the chances are of this. I'm guessing probably not. Oh, I was going to say not great, because there it's not great, but here it's fine. You do get some funny little things like that from time to time. Let me just rotate that round. As I said, I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to placing these things, so I'm going to be a little bit picky. You can see I've left a gap between the two, so I can put paths there as well if I want, which probably will be my want at some stage. Can't need some builders. Oh cool, we've had a, who's grown up? We've had a couple of babies, which is good, and Mikhail has grown up and is ready to work. Excellent. That's good. So I'll just pop 1 builder on there at the moment. So that means that's 7 we've got now, which is really, really good. Oh, here it comes. 0 degrees. Now what you'll notice, if I come across here, you'll notice this little snowflake icon, which means it's an unfavourable season. So these guys are not going to be gathering anything, which is understandable. You're digging stuff out of the ground. If the ground is frozen, and it's -1, -2 now, so it's probably starting to get pretty icy on the old fingers to get that out. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our 2 gatherers off. We're going to put 2 more into the hunter's cabin here instead, and that will bring us in meat instead. We've got though a good number, like that's a pretty healthy little number to begin with at this stage. Like later on we'll be producing thousands of vegetables in any one season, but for the moment, like, to have a few hundred there is not too bad, given that we've got this sort of stock take here, or stockpile rather, of this food here. As the population starts to grow up though, I will, again, fishing is something that can be done all year round, so I'll get that done pretty quickly as well. Alright, looks like the house is coming along nicely. Yes, up she goes. Firewood's looking pretty good, 418, so it's actually been an increase, which is excellent. That's what we want to see. I've only got 1 person there chopping firewood at the moment. That's all you need to begin with. Later we'll put on 2. We can have 3 at that station. We can even upgrade it, which may even allow us to have more people. I can't remember from memory. Cool. So, alright. So that always worries me. No fuel for heating. Come on. Quick. Put some firewood in there, because I do not want people to freeze to death. Come on. There's nothing worse than seeing that when you've got 405 firewood there. Go in. Oh, why are you going to that house? Come on. Because this really worries me. Come on. In. Oh, thank goodness. Later in the game, losing people, well, it happens less often, but when it does happen, it's less critical. At this stage, this game can be on a knife's edge at this point. You can really, yeah, things can just turn around very, very quickly if you're not careful. So, we're still gathering those initial resources. Notice how we started on this side and we've worked our way across, and in the meantime, everything's regrown here. So usually once a season or so, I will actually go through and just strip out like all the trees, just to sort of replenish our supplies. All right, so we've got another house there, which is just give us a bit more space. So these houses each hold 5. So there's 5 and 5 is 10, and these are 3. So again, there's another 9. So we've got space for 19, but we've only got 11 people. So they're going to start making some babies soon, hopefully. Oh, come on, more firewood, please. Go in there. Cool, excellent. That's what we want to see. You do have to be careful if they're during winter. If they're working, if they're like walking long distances when they're working, they can also freeze. Especially given that we haven't got any clothing for them at the moment, which is a problem I want to solve fairly quickly for them. So, because I don't want my whole town to freeze to death. You've got to be careful as well. If you ever decide to knock these down, do not do it. Do not do it in winter, because they'll freeze and they'll starve pretty much straight away. Even in summer and that, you've got to be careful, because they will starve if it takes you too long. Like, for example, I couldn't knock these down and then go and build another house on top, because by the time I take this down, because as soon as you tell it to deconstruct, they move out. And like I said, remember, they're not smart enough to go and get food anywhere else. So as soon as I knock it down, they're out of a house. And then you've got to knock it down and you've got to build another one. So it's problematic if they don't have somewhere to go. So usually if I suddenly build another house, like I'll build a new house first and then I'll knock that one down, because then they've got somewhere to go. Excuse me. So yeah, it's that's the plan at the moment. We're in the middle of winter here. It is minus 10 degrees. I imagine that is quite cold. Like I said, we do get overnight lows here in Melbourne, down to 0 degrees sometimes. Sometimes you might get a -1, depending. I'm sort of out in the suburbs a bit, so I'm not right in the heart of the city. It doesn't get as cold in the city, but it gets colder out in the suburbs here. So, but even then, like I said, we might get down to 0 or maybe -1. But even then, that's a fairly rare occurrence. So, yeah, the concept of a day, like walking around in the day and it being below 0, is quite a foreign concept to me. But I'm sure for a lot of you that is a thing that happens quite regularly. Alright, we're going along pretty well. This has been a pretty good first episode. You'll notice well, completely out of fruit. Our veggies are getting down now. We're in late winter though, which is good, because once we get into spring, once we get above 0, we can start gathering again. We've got 182 meat though, which is good. And this, remember, this is just what is here stored in our storage. Like, that's not including what's actually in houses. If I go into houses, you'll see they've all got their own little stockpiles of food and the like as well. So this here is just what is available to them in the actual storage facilities, the barn and the like that we have. So I think we'll wrap it up there. This has been a great first episode. My name is Federation, as I said, very first video. Hopefully you've liked it. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Please feel free to leave a comment. It would be great to hear from you. It'd be great to know where you are watching this video all around this wonderful world of ours. And of course, most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Yeah, because like I said, 0 subscribers at the moment. I would love to see how many subscribers I can get at the end of the first video. I will happily play some more of this Forest Village. I've also got a couple of other games planned to put up on the channel over the next few weeks as well. So obviously this is not my full-time job. This is just a bit of fun on the side. So I've got to work out a bit of a production schedule. How can I fit it in amongst doing everything else? But yeah, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time.